Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, a narcoleptic comedian in Chicago, and this is a podcast where I interview people in my bed, and we talk about sleep, comedy, relationships, and sex. This is my 26th episode, and I interview LA-based comedian Bobby Hill. But before we get into the interview, I do have a couple things I do want to plug. I've been writing a pilot with my fellow Chicago comedian Catherine Pavanelli, also known as Pavs. It's called Super, and it's about a low-level narcoleptic superhero with the power to make people dance as she struggles to save the world and stay awake. We're having a stage reading at I.O. at the Chris Farley Cabaret on Saturday, September 17th at 7 p.m. We have some amazing people reading for us, including Greg Holloman of Strangers with Candy, Kristen Lumberg, Amanda Lindeal, Elliot Lerner, and more. Again, that's Saturday, September 17th at 7 p.m. at I.O. at the Chris Farley Cabaret. You can also catch me at Annoyance tomorrow night, September 8th at 8 p.m. in the main stage doing stand-up. This week I interviewed Bobby Hill, and we talked about comedy, we talked about superheroes, we talked about polyamory. He is an LA-based comedian that has a podcast called The Trusty Sidekick, where he and comedian Jay Washington talk about the superhero TV shows and movies that they've seen in the previous week, and they also talk about comedy. They will be actually launching on Bid Chat on September 12th at 6 p.m. Central Time. You can also follow Bobby on Twitter at mocha_Jesus. Sleeping with Sarah is brought to you by Audible.com. You can go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah to get a free audiobook of your choice. This week, I'd like to recommend The Bassoon King by Rainn Wilson. Again, that's audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. If you like this podcast, please subscribe on iTunes or iHeartRadio and rate and review. You can also go to Sleeping with Sarah for more information or follow me on Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Well, let's get started with the show. Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, and I'm here with my guest, Bobby Hill.
Hi, I'm the guest.
How'd you sleep last night, Bobby?
Oh man, how did I sleep last night? It was none of my sleeps are great. I don't sleep very well. I'm not a very effective sleeper. I don't remember dreams, and so...
You don't remember dreams?
No.
See, but you say it the right way. Most people are like, I don't have dreams. Everyone has dreams, you just don't remember.
Yeah, there's dreams for sure, because I wake up and sometimes I'm like, I wasn't here. I was somewhere else, or for a moment I'll think that the world is different for just a brief second, and then it kicks in that was not a thing that really happened. But I've only remembered one dream in the last 15 years. So
one dream?
Yeah.
Is this a recurring dream? Is this an important dream?
No, I die at the end of the dream. It's
God.
So it's like, I was like, oh yeah, that's why I'm good at not remembering dreams. I'm okay with it, you know? Because I don't remember nightmares either, so...
Well, that's good, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I hope.
I think so. I didn't have to be anywhere today until like 4 o'clock, so I was able to kind of wake up at my leisure today, so...
So what time did you... If you didn't have to be anywhere till 4 o'clock, what, you wake up at 3:50?
No, I still woke up at like 10:30 in the morning, but okay. I laid in bed for about an hour and a half before I did anything, so...
No, that's nice.
It took me a while to get moving. Sometimes it does that.
So. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So do you have like insomnia at all, or just a light sleeper?
Well, I've not been diagnosed with anything. I haven't gone in to see about getting myself diagnosed or gone through a sleep study, although I've had multiple people recommend that I should.
Are you one of those guys that doesn't go to doctors?
I will go to doctors if I feel like there's an issue, but I don't feel like there's... I just don't like to
You're
sleep.
Like, hey, I don't sleep much. Not a big deal. I've had one dream in the last 15 years. That's okay. That's normal.
I mean, I might be broken, but it's broken... Like, it's a part that's broken that I'm not concerned about. Like, the machine still runs, you know? Like, like I'm still going. It's not
so I have a question.
I don't feel like I'm missing something.
When you're driving a car and you're like, check engine light goes on, do you just ignore it until something big happens?
No, I check through some of the things that are going on with it, but, you know, there's nothing else happening right now. It's just the non-dreaming part happening. So I'm okay with that. I don't sleep a lot. No, I sleep 4 or 5 hours a night usually.
Oh wow.
Max, maybe once a week I'll get a good 8 or 9.
Damn.
And that'll be it.
So what do you do with all that extra time?
Try and write jokes mostly. I'm a stand-up comic, so I'm mostly trying to write jokes or go to mics or you know, work and make some money in some other ways. So
yeah,
you know, as a male gigolo. Kidding, I'm not Mama.
West Hollywood.
No, not in West Hollywood either.
No, I'm just kidding.
Not that there's anything wrong with West Hollywood. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm constantly putting stuff into my brain so I can have stuff to talk about on stage. I have to spend at least a few hours a day beating myself up. I got to put time in for that. And then I've got to spend like an hour of recovery. That's got to happen. So I go through all those stages throughout my day. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's. I wish I had more.
You're a sleeper, though.
Yeah, sometimes I'll just sleep and I'll be like, shit, I could have done so much more today. But nope, I decided to sleep.
Yeah. See, I feel like that even when I'm up for 19 or 20 hours in a day, I'm still like, there was so much more I need to do.
See, if I'm up for that much, it's like because something really cool is happening and I just take extra medicine and stay up. like
extra medicine, ladies and gentlemen.
I have medicine, yes. I take medication,
I take medication too.
I take medication to stay awake. It's legal though. My medication is legal.
Oh, well, that's a whole different kind of, that's a whole different kind of medication.
I take medication that's legal, but usually if it's like something really fun happening, I'll have some late. Like I had a couple late nights, the last couple weekends actually, but it's been fun, you know.
So that's my thing. Is like I think all the things are fun that are happening. So I'm always willing to be like, yeah, let's take medication and stay up. You know, I'm not much, I get nothing out of, for me, I feel like, I mean, I know my body gets stuff out of sleep, but mentally I feel like.
See, I like but that's because you don't dream. Like, I like escaping into dreams sometimes, and you can kind of escape and be someone else and be in a different situation, and it's almost like, I don't know.
Yeah, for me, it's just, I know that I will at some point not be conscious, and then, like, all of a sudden I'm awake again.
Or is it the whole...
That's how it works for me. Like, there's no, like, I don't realize that time has passed when I first wake up, usually. I'm usually just like, I was just awake, right?
Yeah.
And then I have to realize...
And you're like, hey, let's go back out again. I took a nap.
Yeah.
You know,
if I realize it's been 5 or 6 hours since I slept, I'm like, all right, well, we have to do things now. So, it doesn't really matter what that period of time is.
And you've been living in LA for a bit?
Yeah.
Or
I just officially moved to LA like 2 weeks ago. So
officially, unlike a lot of Chicago people, did not have a big roaster. You kind of slipped away.
No, way too sensitive. No, I'm not too sensitive, but no, I didn't make a big deal about it. I know that it's a big deal for people when they're making a move to somewhere else, and I know that there's a lot of people that want to make sure they can take advantage of seeing somebody because they don't think they're going to see them for a while. But with me moving to LA, it wasn't a situation where I wasn't going to be back here often anyway. So my daughter lives here, and so I'm going to be back here almost every month or every month anyway. So to say like, oh, I'm moving, let's throw this big going away thing, put me on your shows because I'm not going to be here for another 3 weeks. Seemed like an odd thing to do, you know? Like, I'd rather be on people's radar as someone they could still offer bookings to because with enough stuff, I'll come back. So I'll be back here in October again. I'm coming back. I'm doing CYSK in November.
Nice.
So I'll be back then. So.
And how's your daughter?
My daughter's 10. I have a 10-year-old daughter. 10. Yeah.
So she still likes you.
She still likes me. In fact, my daughter found me on Instagram and follows me on Instagram.
Is that a problem?
I immediately went back through all of my Instagram pictures and was like, where did I put that substance that I shouldn't have on there? What things have I been saying on here?
Did you find something?
No, I don't have anything that's a big problem on there, as far as I know. I'm also...
At least she doesn't follow you on Snapchat, right?
You know, no, she doesn't. No, she does not. Not that I do anything... Honestly, my Snapchat's a pretty tame Snapchat, to be honest. It's mostly me making pictures with filters. That's pretty much it, and me saying dumb things. And promoting shows. That's pretty much what my Snapchat is.
So, yeah, really, this is a great advertisement to follow Bobby on Snapchat.
Follow me on Snapchat and listen to me make funny faces and say some weird stuff. No, but my Instagram, yeah, it's fine. The reality is, though, is like, I want to raise a kid who actually is kind of with it. So
you want to raise a cool kid?
She finds something and she's like, Dad, what is this? Like, I'm okay with being like, well, this is a situation. This is what the deal is. This is how your dad operates.
I should tell you what my dad did to me when I was 12, right? Okay. So I told him, because I was close to my dad. I was closer to my dad than my mom growing up. And I told him that one of my friends, who was a little bit older, had tried a cigarette for the first time. I was like, oh, you tried a cigarette? Well, I got a buddy at work, we can, if you want to try smoking, we can smoke together. We can try smoking together. And keep in mind, neither of my parents smoke. I've never really been around smoke. My an aunt and uncle smoke, but I wasn't around it on a regular basis. So one time my mom and brother were at home. He's like, Sarah, come here. I got my buddy at work. I got a cigarette. Here's how you smoke a cigarette. He puts a cigarette to my mouth, to his mouth to show an example. He's like, you breathe in real deep like this. And that's how you...
He set you up.
And that's how you start... And there were Marlboro Reds.
Oh, God. Oh.
And so I threw up.
You still might have cancer just because of that one time.
And I threw up, and because of that, I haven't smoked. And I'm so thankful.
My dad was a smoker, and so that was enough for me. Like ashtrays used to freak me out as a kid, because my dad had these giant glass ashtrays, and they would just sit in the living room, and he would smoke, and then like he would have me come and empty them. But like I didn't know, I was a kid, so like I didn't understand what cigarettes were made of, and so like to see that ash, it would just seem like the most disgusting thing, you know?
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember my little sister stepped in the ashtray one time, and I was like, well, not touching her anymore. She's done.
God.
Like she's dead to me. She's been touched by that ash stuff. I don't know. It's over for her.
So you really weren't a fan of Ash Wednesday then?
No Ash Wednesday.
Did that freak you out? When you saw people with that on their forehead, did that freak you out?
I mean, here's the thing. I have my medical card in California, so I'm a legal marijuana partaker. So I'm not as freaked out about ash as I used to be. I know what it is now, so it's not so scary as it was when I was like 8 or 9 years old. I'm a little more cognizant now, and I'm not as much of an idiot. But yeah, it was that I never wanted to smoke because my dad smoked, and he actually passed away. Not to bring the podcast down, but he passed away a few years ago from lung and throat cancer. So
gotcha.
I'm for sure like, nah, I think I'm good on cigarettes. You know.
Well, that's good. Yeah, for me, it was like also I started to explain my purchases that didn't make sense. I'm like, oh, well, I save like $3,000 a year by not smoking, so it's okay if I buy this pair of shoes.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good excuse.
You know what I mean?
That's a good way to do it.
It's like mathematically, it's like, oh, I could take a trip, or I could go do this, and it's like, in your head, it doesn't make much sense, but if you think about it, if you did smoke...
God, if I look at cigarette prices, and I'm just like, oh, you must be a millionaire, because I couldn't imagine to smoke a pack a day when it's, what is it, $8 or $9 a pack of cigarettes?
I don't know, because that's how little I check.
It's something crazy.
So some people used to be like 3 packs a day. That'd be $30 a day.
That's insanity.
That would be, what, $900 a month? That's more than rent. That's more than rent.
The only thing I do that's worth that much is living. There's nothing else I have that has any value that's close to that every month. My child support isn't even that. So... Yeah. You can't have a cigarette habit that's higher than your child support. That should be a rule. If your cigarette habit is higher than your child support, you need to give up something. Okay?
Yeah. You need to figure something out.
So no, I just want her to be, you know, I don't want it to be one of those things where she has to go find out on her own, or she's got to like ask somebody else, or I'm not going to lie to her. And just kind of like have her find out later. Like I'm not gonna do some big reveal when she's 21 and be like, guess what? Your dad smoked weed the whole time. Like it seems like a silly thing to do. I'd rather have her be an educated, intelligent person now. Yeah. You know. And so if at some point she brings it up, we'll have that discussion. But you know, I'm also not like seeking ways to introduce her to it either.
Because she's 10.
Right. So
but kids are crazy now. I mean, I don't know exactly what the kids know today, but...
Well, I just think part of the problem is I think people are very dishonest with children about the realities of what life is. And then you end up, it's not a matter, like, you know, every time somebody talks about the problem with kids these days, they always talk about, like, well, you don't hit them enough. That's not the issue. Like, there are people that argue that, though. They're
I don't hear that.
There are people that argue that all the time. Like, remember we stopped spanking kids and now they just do whatever they want to do. And it's like, that's not the issue. The issue is you don't speak to children like they're actual people. Yeah. You treat children like they're these, like, magical creatures that have landed here without giving them any idea of how reality works. And so, you know, we're more educated people. We can do better.
I feel like I'm fortunate. My parents did talk to me about alcohol in that way. They weren't big. I don't even think they really smoked weed at all, very much at all. So they didn't really talk to me to that. Think. So I think maybe big surprise.
Probably
I mean,
high right now.
No, I really don't. But I'd love to take a trip with them to Colorado just to because I think their big problem was that it was illegal. That was their big problem. But the way they talked to me about alcohol was very honest. They're like, hey, you know, like I had heard stories about when my dad was a kid and he got his ass beat by his dad because he came home drunk one morning or something. But they always told me, hey, we would rather, if you're drunk at a party, whatever, we're not going to get mad. We'd rather you call us than drive home. Because where I was from, Louisville, Kentucky, so we actually had a lot of issues with that because people drive everywhere there. Yeah. And so there was a situation once where I did that, and they didn't get mad. They were fine, you know, but they would rather me be responsible about that. And they taught me, like, on vacations, you know, when I started becoming a teenager in high school, they let me have, you know, beer on vacation, like, in their, you know, just to try it and to understand, hey, it's because my parents drank. It was like, but very social. Like, hey, we'll have a beer after dinner to relax or something. So it was like, it was a very responsible thing. And I think I understood how to be responsible with it and not be a crazy binge drinking college student when I left, you know?
So you didn't do any of that? You weren't
What?
You didn't do any crazy binge drinking?
I mean, not crazy binge drinking. I mean, I did. I mean, I did have
crazy binge drinking.
I mean, I did have some. I mean, of course, you have some nights. You know, you have some nights where you maybe black out or other things happen. You know,
more now though, right?
No. I mean, I don't know. I don't drink as much. I don't drink that much anymore. Now I'm very chill with the drinking, but I think everyone goes through that time where they drink a little bit more.
Yeah.
Especially after breakups.
Yeah, there's a time after breakups you tend to... God, I'll never forget. I broke up with a girl I was seeing in college, and that was probably the worst run of drinking I had, where I was getting pretty close to blackout drunk. I had a couple naked runs through campus.
Naked run? Just a couple? Like, you're like, hey, I'm going to just jog today, just nothing doing.
Yeah, just, late night. I'm tired of clothes. I'm drunk and upset, and so I'm going to run naked through campus, and hopefully no one will catch me.
Nobody caught you?
I didn't get caught. The couple of times I did it, felt pretty good about that. Did some hallway tobogganing. That was... I did a lot of dumb stuff when I was drunk and in college. That was
when I was in high school. I went naked streaking through. I lived on a golf course. I went naked streaking through the golf course.
There you go.
And I remember me and my friend. We made butt prints on the green.
Yeah. By the time I got to be like, I don't know. I think I was maybe in my mid-20s. Was kind of when I was kind of like, you know what, hangovers suck. I get them really bad. The diet that I have after a night of drinking is never great. I never go out for a hard night of drinking, get up and like make a kale smoothie. You know what I mean? Like that's never the process.
You need a burger. You need a burger.
It's always like, oh yeah, I need grease, I need substance, I need something that's gonna soak all this up. So I kind of slowed down on that on my own. So,
well, that's good.
I'm a couple drink a night. I can drink. It's weird. I was at a wedding the other night, and it had an open bar, and I was just like, I probably had 8 drinks, and was fine. I was just kind of like, well, I guess I'm okay right now.
But you're bigger. But I mean,
I'm a large person.
I mean, I didn't mean like that. I didn't mean like large. I just meant like compared to like someone like me. That's like it's like a couple 8 drinks. Oh my god! Like I would be passed out.
It's 8 drinks is still. I'm like 245, so 8 drinks is still a pretty good amount.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
It's still. There's some times when I drink alcohol when it's a waste, which is why a lot of times I don't drink when I'm out, because it's like I'm gonna spend $20 for 2 drinks and then like not have any greater effect than if I would have just drank a Coke.
Well, Coke has a lot of sugar in it, though.
Sure. So does most alcohol once it changes over in your body.
Oh, you're right.
No one's like, let me drink this vodka to lose weight instead of drinking this Coke.
Else they'd probably be finding a way advertising to make that work. Be like, hey, save some calories.
And in this town with comics, it's
PBRs.
It's all PBRs in this town. That's not necessarily less calories than what Coca-Cola is going to give you.
Yeah, but you're right. It's all PBR. You're right. It is all PBRs here.
Yeah. How's the comedy been going for you here?
It's good. I like it. I'm enjoying it. I'm still doing Secrets Lies. I've been doing that. I've been trying to do shows out of town once in a while or in the suburbs. Been doing some little club stuff there. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think a lot of my focus has been on writing a lot. So I'm trying to write. I'm in the process of going through edits with one pilot, and we're doing a stage reading in a couple weeks.
Nice.
And then I'm writing a separate pilot. That one I'm writing by myself. It's way harder to write by yourself. But, and then I've just got a few other things. I'm trying to get a packet together and get all that stuff happening. And, yeah, so it's been good. So I have a lot of time now that I'm happy with.
That's good.
But not enough yet to move. I want to have a bit more time. So, maybe another year, and then I'll be ready. So
sometimes it just kind of gets demanded of you, you know. Like I was going back and forth for the last year and a half, and was kind of content to continue doing that. And the deal that we signed, Jay and I, who have the Trusty Sidekick podcast that we've been doing the radio thing, we turned it into this live show. So now we've got the live show that we're doing that's going to be on BidChat, and so for us to do a live show together, we kind of need to be in the same place. And so he's in LA. Bid Chat offices are in LA. It just seemed easier to kind of be out there, which is what got me to kind of be like, all right, well, we're going to do at least 6 months in Pasadena and see how it works. So
that's cool, though, to check that out, to have a thing that's... but your podcast is about reviewing superhero TV shows.
Yeah, it's all the Marvel and DC live action shows. So any, like, cape and cowl superheroes that either have a TV show or a movie that's
but it's canon, right?
It's just whatever it's whatever superhero stuff is out. So all the CW DC shows that are out right now. So Supergirl, Flash.
Does it have to come from a Marvel or DC? Yeah. Gotcha.
So yeah, just Marvel or DC stuff at least for right now. I mean, we're the only podcast I know that covers all of that.
That's a lot to cover.
It's a lot to cover.
How much of your week is spent watching all of these shows?
Most of it, but it's what I was doing anyway. It was a thing we were doing anyway. Jay and I were in... Jay Washington, Xavier Lamont.
I had him on the podcast before.
So him, Xavier Lamont, who you probably want to get a bigger bet if you're going to have him on the podcast for. And I have been on the same... We've been on the same... XL, you know you're a big dude. Don't fucking...
I think he could fit. He could fit on this bed.
XL's 6'7", which means he's got at least 5 inches on me. He could fit. It would be barely.
Oh, man.
You might need to set the camera up a little bit higher to kind of get it in the frame.
Oh, my God. I love XL.
So do I.
I want to get him on this podcast.
So do I, but it doesn't make him a small person. He's a lineman. But yeah, so we've had this messenger thread going for the last like 3 or 4 years, and so we were already talking about this stuff anyway. So we were just like, well, why don't we do a show where we're comics, we can talk about all these shows, and so we started doing that, and it blossomed into a thing that people like. So mostly the show content is us talking about what's going on with us comedy wise at the beginning. So shows we just did, people we worked with, stuff like that. And then we go into talking about top stories on the, that's going on in those worlds this week. So if there's a major movie that just came out, we're probably reviewing that.
So you are reviewing movies then?
Yeah, we review movies too. If there's some very important news that just dropped from somewhere, then
hey, they're gonna have this girl play this person.
Yeah. They just signed, like when Brie Larson got signed to play Captain Marvel. That was kind of like the lead story for us that week. That was a big deal signing for them. It's another Oscar winner that they've signed, which is cool. And then we kind of close the show out by talking about where we're going to be that following week. So it's a nice help for comedy places because we have a good amount of listeners every week. So it's a nice promotion for comedy places to book us because we're going to talk about your show and how much you like being there, both the week that we're going there and the week after, which is kind of cool. But if you're a nerd and you're into Marvel and DC stuff, it's a fun show to listen to. And now at the live show, we're going to have guests on. So
people like on the shows?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
We've got Katrina Law, who plays Nissa Al Ghul across the CW show. She's going to be on the show. We have the guys that play the Diggle Brothers. They're going to be on the show. We've had Tone Bell on the show before. So we're just continuing to push for guests and things like that to have on. So that'll be on the live show. And on the live show, it's on Bid Chat, where you can actually bid to interact with us or with the guests that are on the show. So
I don't know. Wait, explain how Bid Chat works exactly.
So it's a streaming network, and so when you go on, you can buy Bid Chat tokens while you're there. And then when you're watching the show, you can either you can bid to be able to interact with us. So
to be able to like message you.
Yeah, so you can actually message us when we respond to messages like right in the middle of the show. You can ask guest questions.
Oh, so it's live.
Oh yeah, it's a live show.
Oh wow.
So you can ask guest questions live in the middle of a show. If you like the guest that's on there, you can always tip. And there's a donation portion of it too. So a portion of the proceeds from every show goes to a charity. So at least you're helping somebody out by watching.
And so wait, is it always live? Can you watch it afterwards?
You can watch it afterwards. There'll be the live show will be every Monday at 4:00 Pacific, 6 Central, and then after that it'll be on there so you can watch it at any time. So if you miss it, you can always go back. It's called the Trusty Sidekick. Yeah, it's a fun show.
I think it's interesting that you do the superhero thing because one of the things I'm working on is a superhero genre, I guess, but more comedy, silliness.
Yeah, I did a reading, I think, on one of your pilots for that. Right?
Yeah, we're working. What we were doing is we were doing a kind of a feedback session. First, we were writing a web series, and then we decided to write a pilot, and we've written the pilot now, still in editing process, but it's about a low-level superhero who has narcolepsy and has the power to make people dance, and her struggles of trying to save the day and stay awake.
That's an interesting power to make people dance.
Yeah. I just thought, well, we were thinking budgeting is the way we came up with it. It's like, hey, what? You're like, hey, what's a power that I could do without having to have a high
really
budget
shot
to film?
for the moon there, huh? You're like, you know what? We believe we will get good money, and so we will go with the power to make people dance.
Well, we were thinking originally web series and how it was going to happen that way.
Right. You want to make sure that someone might greenlight what you're doing, right?
Yeah, and not be like, hey, they want to spend $1 billion to do all this.
Are we falling? Uh-oh. Oh, man. If the camera falls on my head...
Thankfully, this isn't live.
If the camera falls on my head...
camera shakers.
I've already got one. I've got one on my head right now. If you can see this on the camera, I've got this on my head right now. Yeah, that's a problem with being tall. That's the thing that happens a lot.
But with the web series, we're trying to say more about bringing awareness to narcolepsy, because that's... Only 25% of the people that have it are properly diagnosed, and it takes like an average of 10 to 12 years to get a diagnosis.
Got it.
So it's like part of it's bringing awareness, but from a realistic point of view, but also funny. Like, I'm fine making fun of narcolepsy, but I want to make sure that, hey, that happens at, like the falling down thing happens at a shock or a heightened emotion. It doesn't just happen out of the blue. I don't fall asleep on my soup. It's not like that.
Right. It's not like those goats that they have on those YouTube videos. Have you seen those? The goats that fall asleep? So they're just like running and all of a sudden they're just like fall over.
Yeah, but it depends. Like, it's an emotional thing. Like, it's really triggered with the falling down part. There's other parts to it, too. But a lot of it I wanted to make sure was grounded in reality with that, but still funny. Like, I have no problem making fun of it because it's funny. But the idea is that someone's a superhero and she's trying not to be defined by that, by her disability, and kind of trying to overcome that and showing that even if you have a disability, maybe there's ways that can be an advantage, and kind of playing along with those different themes that I think hasn't really been explored properly in a television show. And I think they explore disabilities in TV shows, but not invisible disabilities.
Right, yeah.
There's very rarely where they will explore an invisible disability, and narcolepsy is one of those, and you get a lot more... It's a very weird thing about keeping it quiet, and you get a lot more... odd discrimination that doesn't really make sense. It's hard to explain. Like, mornings are really hard for me, and when I have a day job, I have to explain, hey, mornings are really hard for me, and sometimes I might be a little late, and some people just don't get that. They're like, well, why can't you set more alarms? It doesn't always work that way.
Right.
And so I'm really thankful the job I have right now, they're a bit more flexible. They're like, oh, you can come between 9 and 9:30, that's fine. And like, it's very comforting to have something like that. But the fact that working with an invisible disability is something that a lot of people don't... And the thing is, like, we still want to make it fun. It's still funny. The point is it's funny and fun and silly and ridiculous, but also bringing up these other points and deeper thoughts, and also, like, this person living up to a family that's successful superheroes. And so there's a lot of... And we've created a huge backstory.
Do you have nemesis that have other sleep disorders?
There's Insomnibro.
Nice. Insomnibro.
Yeah. His power is he makes people high five.
Oh, great. You're really looking to keep that budget right.
Hey, if we're going to have a bigger budget, we want to have the budget to be able to fly well-known people we know to come and do like a cameo or something.
Absolutely.
We want to put the budget where it's at, Yeah. I mean, we want to do something that's fun and good, but also say something more with it. So.
Yeah, I like it. I like the fact that you're going to try and explore something like that, because there isn't a lot of exploration of that. Is that a thing that, like, you're talking about how mornings are hard for you. Do you sleep heavy? I mean, do you feel like...
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's a heavier sleep? Is that what happens?
It's not just that. It's like you wake up and you start to hallucinate, or you'll be in a sleep paralysis. And, like, if I take a nap, it might take me 15, 20 minutes to get to reality. It's a lot. It's a big variety of things. It's not just one thing, and it's hard to explain because most people know narcolepsy is it being one thing. Yeah. And that's with a lot of disabilities, too. They define it as this one thing. Oh, yeah, you fall asleep standing up, right? Only 40% of the people that have narcolepsy have that. It's called a cataplexy.
I mean, that's still a good amount of people.
It is.
40% is still a lot of people falling asleep standing up.
But that's also why it's highly misdiagnosed. Right. I probably wouldn't have been diagnosed properly if I didn't do that in one of my classrooms.
Right, for sure.
But that's
crazy. So you've done it.
Oh, yeah, I do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that. It doesn't happen as much anymore. Like, in high school, it happened a couple times a day.
I fall asleep standing up one time. But I was.
But like I fall to the ground. No, like I mean I'm standing up and I fall to the ground.
Yeah, no, that's not good. That's you don't want that.
But
that seems painful.
It's not painful. Actually, your body knows it's going to happen, so you kind of fall on your knees. It's hard to explain, but it's kind of like maybe like the fallen goats in that way.
Got it.
But it's a bit more complicated. But I think. Yeah, I think it's also because people that have those things either don't want to share it or don't feel like it, or they don't have it strong enough. Like I happen to have a pretty severe case of it, I think, because I've met I know at least one other comic, maybe two other comics that have narcolepsy, but they don't have it as badly as I do. So they don't talk about it in the way I talk about it in my comedy. But I had people that come up to me after shows that are like, hey, my son has narcolepsy, or I might have it, or...
Yeah, there's got to be a lot of people that, like just like me, like I could have a sleeping disorder, but I wouldn't know. You know what I mean? Like I've never gone to check on that.
And a lot of people don't check on it because it could just be like regular fatigue, and they don't realize it because that's like every day. The way I am every day is how most people feel when you're up for 2 or 3 days straight. That's how I feel all the time.
Got it.
And so, I mean, I take medicine. Clearly, that's why I'm able to stay awake and do a podcast, especially I think this late and all that. So, but yeah, it's just part of who I am. And,
for sure.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes sometimes, there's something that's not out there. It's the same thing with us with the show. It's like there's nobody doing that. There's nobody doing that type of a thing. And there's similar things, like The Talking Dead is a similar type of show. I mean, that's what I would say our show is kind of like. It's like The Talking Dead, but about those two properties instead. But they picked up the pitch that we had for the show in within 30 seconds, and it was because it's not a thing that's done.
Log line.
you just gotta have a thing that, like, sometimes there are things out there that haven't been done yet. It's just a variety of something else, you know. And so I think the idea of doing something like that and exposing that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So
and like our tone is kind of like it's kind of like a tone
gritty,
of Broad
really
City.
Gritty.
It's like a Broad City. It's like a Broad City tone. So it's like Broad City meets The Incredibles.
Right. A little bit of a superhero parody kind of a thing to it.
A little bit, but not exactly parody, I wouldn't say, because we also deal with the idea of, so it's a superhero and her best friend who's a primary, who's a non-superhero. So you're also playing with
primary.
we got a name for it. You like that? Supers and primaries.
I like
Supers
it.
and primaries.
I like it.
So the idea is
like you can't have transgender without cisgender, right? You gotta have
so it's in a society where it's okay, like it's known that superheroes and primaries coexist, but that but the thing is that there's still some weird animosity a little bit between some people.
Little distrust.
Some people don't. Some people think supers are maybe higher than primaries or other things like that. So there's some, and that's also we could also say a lot more things about our society in other ways by explaining that. So there's I think that there's a lot of ways to go with it, but it's just about where it goes and how it happens. And the thing is, I'm not afraid of sharing it because I don't think anyone else can do this.
Sure.
Versus most the other pilot I'm writing, I'm like, I'm not going to talk about that. But because this one, I'm like, I don't think anyone else can write this.
Right.
So I'm pretty confident, like it's okay.
You have the inside scoop on the narcolepsy superhero.
Yeah. Of course, I will say, I mean, Jimmy Kimmel has narcolepsy too, and but he's too busy.
He's probably not going to stay.
Yeah, he's probably busy. Too busy to listen to this podcast.
He may skip stealing this particular idea for sure.
I'm pretty sure.
So where would the move be when you're talking about moving?
Oh, I would probably go to LA.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know more people there, but I mean, I'm not ruling out New York, but
sure.
But I want to make sure I'm ready. I want to have at least. At least a handful of writing packet stuff and some other stuff going on. I'm not gonna go out there without anything.
Yeah, it's a city where you definitely need to have some things ready to go out to. You can get lost out there very quick.
No, I'm not gonna get lost. I'm pretty ambitious. I have a pretty clear plan of the things I want to do.
It's so interesting. People get so caught up in that. That's another reason why I didn't want to make a big deal out of moving, because people get so caught up in that whole thing, that like New York or LA kind of a thing, and it's just, we're just people trying to chase where the right employment is. It's not like people are acting like we're choosing some university that we're going to forever be branded with for the rest of our life. You know what I mean?
Like, are you going to be rushed for this fraternity?
Yeah. Like, are you going to the Ohio State, or are you going to the University of Iowa? Oh, you're going to be a Notre Dame guy? Oh boy! And it's like, well, no, I'm just going here because for right now, this is what I'm trying to do, and that's where I need to be for it. But if New York needed me to be there for something, I'd be going there.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm not opposed to New York, and I haven't visited it for comedy yet, and I think the thing is LA, I've been a couple times in the last, 6 months, and I plan to go again. I know more people in LA. I feel like more of my friends and more of the producers for a show I run, we're all leaning towards LA. So if I want to continue to run that show, which I do, and I love that show, I do, and then I don't know. It's just about different things. But
plus, you can't fit this bed into any apartment in New York City.
Exactly. Oh my God.
You have to downsize your bed if you're going to.
No, I can't do that because part of the selling point of this podcast is, hey, I have a super comfy bed.
It is a very comfy bed.
Lay in it for an hour and talk to me, and that's a good sell, right? It's like, hey, if I was like, hey, I got a lumpy mattress on the floor, right. You'd be like,
Yeah, if you had an air mattress, I wouldn't be here doing this podcast right now. What is it with air mattresses? Why are people still sleeping on air mattresses? Grown adult people.
I don't understand why guys still don't have bed frames. So they just have mattresses on the floor, and I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's at least a step up though.
A mattress.
It's at least a step up from air mattress.
If you go ahead and get the mattress, why don't you get the bed?
Get a frame to put it on?
Why don't you get the frame?
You know what's funny too? Frames are not expensive. It's the least expensive part of the whole deal. Frames are you can get a frame for $15 or $20.
It's just laziness.
Least expensive.
It's the same thing why their walls are white and they have no decoration.
And I don't like to sleep a whole lot, but I do like a comfortable bed. Yeah. I can fall asleep anywhere too.
You can't. I thought you said you didn't sleep well.
When I do though, I can go anywhere. That's part of the problem is do you get ready for bed and then get into bed and okay, I'm gonna go to sleep?
No, I don't have a ritual. I'm just like, hey, I can go to bed.
Right.
I might fall asleep on the couch and be out all night.
Yeah, that's my I'll do that all the time. I almost never am all right, time to lay down, turn off the light. It's
And do you have roommates or significant others that you?
Yeah, I mean, I've lived my whole life. I've always had roommates or significant others. My entire life, I've never lived alone. So
ever?
I've never lived alone.
See, I'm similar. I've lived alone. Well, I've lived alone at small points. When me and my ex broke up, I lived alone for a month or two in our old apartment, which is the saddest thing ever. Living in the apartment with all this stuff.
Oh, man.
Of course, we still kind of kept seeing each other because that's just how it
Right, that's how that works sometimes, right?
But so then there have been a couple times where I've lived kind of alone, but just a month or two at a time. But I've never really been alone, but part of it is because the narcolepsy, because I'm terrified. It's what if there's a fire or something and I sleep through it? Someone has to wake me up.
If you sleep through a fire, you're not going to get woken up at the end of that.
Yeah. So it's
that's it.
Well, that's what I mean. That's why part of the reason I have roommates. I'm hey, and that's always fun. Because I recently got new roommates. So it's meeting with new roommates. It's oh, hey, by the way, I have this thing. So if there's a fire, you're going to wake me up. They're oh, okay. So what should I do if you're asleep? Oh, just ignore me unless you want to use the room and then wake me up and be hey, Sarah, go sleep in your room if you want to be in the living room, and I'll just do that. I never get mad if people wake me up.
Yeah, I like having people around. I like having people around. I usually when I'm looking for a place, I usually have at least one friend who's I'm also looking for a place. Let's find one together. And so I tend to usually have good people that I end up rooming with. I've had pretty good roommate situations for the most part. I've had a couple bad ones, but I tend to have roommates. So but they all know that you may come in and Bobby may be just sprawled out on the floor, clothed of course, but butt in the air asleep.
Well, at least you've grown up from your college days.
I just go until I can't really run anymore, and so I make poor decisions around sleep time as far as whether I'm ready for bed or not.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where I'll decide to watch one more episode of something that I'm trying to watch. And it's just I just woke up and, it's 3 episodes later, whatever. So,
So do you have an issue at all with the way you sleep versus significant others or relationships or that kind of thing? Or
it's interesting because people always ask me if they bother me in their sleep. And once I'm out, REM comes quick. There's not a lot of shallow sleeping for me. It's once because I'm always taking it until I can't be awake anymore. Mm-hmm. It's I'm out. So when I finally go out, it's it's super lights out time for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's I've always made sure I've been hey, are you a heavy sleeper? An early dating question on, and it's oh, if they're not a heavy sleeper, then I'm okay, this is not going to work. I should not even try. If you're not a heavy sleeper, then we're not going to work out. I'm sorry. That's just
Are you very mobile in your sleep?
I don't think you're during cheers.
That's my, that's the very
I mean,
mobile.
I can be, But sometimes I talk in my sleep, sometimes I snore, I move around a lot, but I'm not actually that bad. I think once I get used to another body next to me, like, it's not a big deal. But right now, it's like, I just sprawl out, like, take the whole bed.
Yeah. I've occasionally elbowed the shit out of somebody. On occasion, I've had some moves where I've been like, what?
Well, it could be worse. I've had someone on my podcast that punched a significant other in their sleep.
Oh, wow. No, I've never done anything like that. I've been asked to punch a significant other while they were awake, but...
Wait, what? Was that a weird sex thing?
Yeah, it was a weird sex thing.
She wanted you to punch? Not a slap, but a punch. She wanted me to punch her, yeah. And I was like, no, you've got to go work with actual human beings tomorrow. Like, I'm not going to punch you in the face. That's weird. Is that the weirdest thing? Like, that's weird. Like,
it's definitely not the weirdest thing I've been asked to do to somebody, but it's...
Oh my
but it was
gosh.
one that it was one of the ones where I was like, oh, for sure I can't do that. Like, I only have 2 punches, right? Like, I've got, like attaboy and, like, nighty-night, you know? Like, there's not, like, I don't know how to middle punch. Like, I don't know the third gear for the punching. So I was like, how about can I just slap you? It was a weird question to ask you. And I was like, can I just slap you instead?
What'd she say?
She agreed to that one. She was still rather unpleased, though. So
she was unhappy with the slap.
Yeah, the slap was not what she wanted. But I was not going to be responsible for that mandatory police report.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, that's smart. You gotta know. Hey, even though people have kinks, you gotta.
I was like, I like you. I'm into you, but I'm not gonna end up with an indefensible thing for the police.
Yeah. I think that some people have their kinks, and everyone's entitled to their different things. But some things it's okay to say no to.
It's cool. We're still good friends. So we don't do any of that anymore, though. We have the intimate part.
So you're okay. So. You're okay being with friends and people afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. I That's my preference. I'm polyamorous, so I prefer to have decent friendships with people, and then a few that kind of have intimacy. So that's kind of my preferred way to be.
So is it multiple people? Like, so just to get an idea. So
sure.
Is it? Do you have a primary person?
I usually have a primary person.
That's like the...
For a long time, I went with kind of like a non-hierarchical polyamory, which was basically I just dated. I had some people that I saw rather consistently, but there's nothing of like a substance of like a girlfriend boyfriend thing. But now I'm more in the vein of having a primary and then tertiary relationships outside.
And then does your primary also have tertiary relationships? Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So, free to kind of do as we please outside of that.
And are the tertiary relationships dating, or is it just sex? Because everyone has their own rules.
I like dating. I like dating. I like going out and doing stuff. I like spending my time with people that I would actually want to spend my time around. So, I prefer to have situations in which I was good friends with somebody, but then also like we got naked, right? Like that's a way. Okay. To me, that's a better deal than like
just hooking up with somebody.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I don't prefer to do that.
Yeah,
I'm also not I'm not some I'm also not like, but I would never just hook up with somebody. That's not realistic either, right?
Yeah.
Like, right situation, right person,
Yeah.
Whatever. The right thing, everybody's probably done at some point. If not, start. No, but I have done that. It's just not what I would prefer.
And just curious, I assume that your daughter probably doesn't know about this yet. No. Is that something that she will, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, So the stance that I take on relationship orientation, I kind of see it the same way that people see sexual orientation. So I didn't like spin the dial and like decide on polyamory as like a thing I wanted to choose to be. I'm just polyamorous. So it's not like I didn't seek it out. Nothing happened when I was a kid. I saw no weirder sex than I don't think anybody else saw when they were probably, when they were like 10, 11, 12 years old and either you stumbled in on a parent or somebody showed you a magazine or whatever. Like, that's the same shit that happens to every kid. But, like, nobody touched me. Nobody did anything weird. I just I never really had jealousy, and the idea of liking more than one person at a time kind of was always been a thing, despite my attempts to not do that.
So do you feel compersion, which I believe is that's a polyamory word that means the opposite of jealousy. So we're a situation where, like, if Bobby was with his main significant other, and he heard that she hooked up with somebody else, he'd be happy for her.
Yeah, that's a big thing, actually. Compersion is kind of like a super word for me. Like, I'm super into the idea of that because I like to joke around. I've joked around with partners before and been like, listen, I'm not a handyman, so like if you want to find somebody who can help you fix something, you're going to have to try and find somebody to date in addition to me who can fix shit, because I'm not the fix-it guy, right? Like, I'm the fun time adventure guy, but, like, I'm not the fix-it guy. So, like, you should probably go find another guy who can make you happy in some ways and also fix some shit around the house. Or woman or whatever, right? Like, whatever floats your boat, you should find that to help.
So wait, do you have people that do different things for you? Like, you're like,
no.
Hey, this girl, I date this girl because she cooks for me. I date this girl because she cleans the house. I date this girl because she goes on my shows.
Not at all.
But that's what you meant.
That's how I laid it out there, right? No, but it's. I mean, that's an exaggeration of something. But the reality is that you do like different people for different reasons, right? Like, there's some people that you really like to go and do outdoorsy stuff with, but that may not be the same type of person that you like to go see movies with. Or the same type of people that you have political discussions with and go to rallies with may not be the same type of person that you want to go get ice cream with, or whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? Some people are super into comedy and they want to come see shows, and some people don't. And some people have busy schedules, and I only get to hang out with them like once every couple of months. I mean, that's the way it is. So
you kind of view relationships, like intimate relationships, in a way a lot of people view friendships.
Yeah.
Is that a good analogy?
I think that...
because you have different friends you do different things with. You kind of see it as an extension of that?
Yeah, it's just a level of a deeper friendship that I have with somebody. And I don't,
What about companionship in the long term? Like when you get older? Or to have someone to take care of you in that way?
That's why I had a kid. No, they have these cool things called nurses. And they, like... when you go to whatever home you go to, because inevitably that's where we all end up if we get a chance to live that long. For sure, they have those nurses that take.
But they're not going to be a nurse that's been with you your entire life.
Here's the thing, though. Like, if I'm creating friendships with people that, either intimate or not, will maintain friendships regardless, like, why wouldn't those people also be around when I'm an old person, when they're old people? Like, what about that?
Because the thing about family is, like, you have to be there for them. Friendships, you don't necessarily have to be.
Right, but, like, just because I would be, like, what does that mean, though, right? Like, what is companionship if it's not somebody who's close enough that they'll come and be by your side whenever you need them? I've got friends now who I would be by their side if they needed me, and we don't even have intimate relationships.
No.
So think of the tie that you have with somebody that you've had an intimate relationship with, that you still get along with, and how you feel like you would want to make sure you're there for somebody in that sense. Right.
Yeah,
like,
I guess you're right.
They used to have they used to have these key parties during World War II, and the reason they had these parties is because so many fighter pilots were dying in World War II that they weren't sure who was going to live or die, and so all these pilots would get together with their wives and they'd have these parties and they'd all throw their keys in the bowl together, and then they'd all mingle, and at various nights a wife would take a pilot and they would go off to a room together.
So the reason was because of World War II?
The reason was because so many pilots were dying. They wanted to make sure that if they died in a firefight that someone would have a connection to their wife to want to take care of her.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So the pilots shared their wives to create a tighter bond amongst each other, so that if one of them died, they would have a connection and want to still take care of each other.
I had no idea that was how key parties started.
Yeah, that's how key parties started.
So that was more of having an intimate connection, and then.
And I feel closer to ideas like that than the idea of, like, I'm going to find one person and then that person has to be all the things I will ever need from now until death, which seems completely unrealistic to me. No. And it seems like the reason why a lot of relationships fail, because at some point you need something greater than what this one person can give to you. Yeah. And so you lose interest in that person. And you find somebody who seems like they can fill in that hole. And, like, instead of being honest about the fact that maybe you can deal with these two situations, you decide that, like, well, I need to either leave this one and have that one, or I need to have this one on the side, and then you start being dishonest. It's like, let's just skip all the dishonesty.
This is one thing I have at least always appreciated. I don't necessarily consider myself polyamorous, but I haven't been monogamous for a while. I feel like I would rather be in a situation where someone would rather be honest with me instead of lying about things. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like I have been brought up in a way and seen real monogamous relationships work.
Sure.
Because I am very fortunate. My parents are still together. They are still in love, and they have been. And I mean, I know that my dad is my mom's one and only.
Sure.
You know, and they didn't wait for marriage or anything like that. They were honest with me about that, at least. You know, they didn't wait for marriage. They, I don't know, waited a few months or something. But, you know, but that was, you know, that was something that I've grown up and I've seen. I'm like, oh, that does exist.
Sure. Well, that's
it's the thing there. And that's the thing. It's and I have been in long-term monogamous relationships. But at the same time, I feel like I've always had other things. I'm an ambitious person, and I've got a lot of things I want to do with my life. And it seems like since that long relationship I had, I don't think anything. When I was in that long relationship, I feel like I was so invested in that took the main priority in my life. Sure. And I don't think I ever want that to happen again. Yeah. Unless I have a kid, I guess. If I have a kid, then the kid should be the most important thing. But still, I feel like I have these other things that are very important to me in my life. And I'm not sure if I want to have that thing where that something else is more. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think, too, people get caught up in this competition between the two things. Like, because I'm polyamorous, it doesn't mean that monogamy doesn't work. It means that what works for me is this type of relationship. But what works for your parents is another type of relationship. To me, that the idea of monogamy sounds incredibly hard for me to commit to. But for them, it's probably exactly what they want because they find no joy in, you know, they're not looking to seek whatever I might be looking to seek outside of what they have. And that's perfectly fine. It's the same way, it'd be like saying that if I was gay, that, like, trying to prove that heterosexuality is still okay. Of course it's okay. Yeah. It's fine. It's just, you know, what I care more about is the idea of understanding that there are different types of relationship structures that people have, and those work. Because even in monogamy, like, okay, monogamy works for your parents, but what does that definition mean? Does that mean that neither of them could ever flirt if they were at a social event together? Does that mean that he can't look at another woman, or is that allowed? Because different people in monogamous relationships have different rules too, right?
I mean, for God's sakes, like so many politicians, you know that they're that's just for face, and then they have, you know, they can do whatever they want.
What does monogamy mean? Does monogamy mean what you don't tell me and what I don't find out about is okay? Because that's what monogamy means to some people.
People have the don't ask, what is it? Don't ask, don't tell.
I mean, and
is that a monogamy thing or polyamory? Like,
I mean, most people will not. There's a lot of people that probably wouldn't cop to having open relationships or being polyamorous, and there's a lot of people that are dating that are
because you think that that's a
stigma.
Yeah,
I think the stigma is an issue. I think the concept of what it is a false thing. You know,
I think there are some situations where guys do try to take that to an advantage. Where I've definitely been in situations where guys like straight up lied and were like, "Hey, I'm in an open thing," and they weren't. Sure. Or been in a situation where it'd be like, hey, I like you and I want to date you, but I want to be polyamorous without them wanting to know without them really knowing. So then I did some research. Like, I was dating this guy for a little bit, and it was like, you know, it was you know, we weren't official or anything, but on his recommendation, I ended up meeting. We had gone on a road trip together where we met my parents and then I met his mom and like we did stuff, you know, like we were in each other's lives.
Important shit, man, when you start meeting parents.
You know, and I was like, yeah, but I was like, all right, well, maybe we should, you know, only see each other. And he was like, well, I kind of don't want to do that. And I was like, okay, why? And he's like, I think I'm polyamorous. I was like, okay. So then I did research on it and I was like, okay, I'd be okay with it, but here are the rules I have. Like, any girl you date has to know that you're dating me too, and that's a thing, and that, and he refused to do that, and I was like, all right,
well, that's not polyamory.
And I was like, okay, no, you're just trying to put your dick in as many places as you want, and I was like, okay, bye bye.
That's a fear. See, that to me, that's a fear. That's a fear of someone who's not willing, because here's what the fear is. The fear is that if he says that to someone else, then the odds that he might get to sleep with that person will go down. Because a lot of people are not polyamorous, right?
And a lot of people aren't cool with that.
And a lot of people aren't cool with that. So he's not willing to risk the idea of meeting people who he might want to sleep with who would say no because of that. Yeah. And that is a thing that I run into. I've had a number of first dates where I maybe have met somebody organically, or even somebody who didn't like... Because I'm on a couple dating apps, and I've met somebody who like maybe didn't read, because I'm honest. I'm honest on dating apps.
Cupid has an option for non-monogamous.
I'm very honest and upfront on any dating app that I'm on. I say it very clearly, but some people don't read, and I've had that happen where I'm out with somebody who I'm like, wow, very, very attractive woman. She's smart. She's funny. We're having a good time. We relate, and then we get to the relationship discussion, and it's a no-go, and it's like, well, sorry, this isn't going to work, because I'm not going to pretend to be something just so I can sleep with you.
I think some people also think, oh, I can maybe change him, or...
I've had that too. I've gone out with someone who I said on the first date, like, listen, here's my deal. I date openly. I understand it's not a thing that works for a lot of people. If that doesn't work, I totally understand. But I'm very honest. And, like, I'll tell you whatever you'd like to know about some dating. I'll tell you as little as you want to know about whoever else I might be dating. I would always, tell you if there's any changes to what's going on, if that's something you care about. But whatever the level of openness you want, I'll give it. But this is the deal. And I've had people go, okay. And then, like, 3 or 4 months later, they're like, okay, so I can't really do that. Which is fine. That's okay to do too, But
my only concern with that, and I don't know, like, because, like, I've been dating, for a little bit. Like, I date, I, have fun, whatever. But my whole thing is, I haven't been to the situation where I've been in love since my long relationship,
Sure.
and that's been years. And so my worry is I'm not sure if I get to the point where I love somebody that I'd be okay with that.
Right.
And that's just something I don't know about myself,
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a thing you can just kind of have to find out whether it works for you or whether it's what you are.
See, that's the thing. Like, I think I overall I am more on the monogamous side. But at the same time, seeing what my parents went through, in a good way. Like, I think that in order to make that work, you have to make an effort towards the relationship to make it work.
Yeah, it's fluid, like, too. Like, there's, if it's a spectrum like anything else, like it's possible that your level of monogamy / open relationships falls somewhere in the middle, maybe you like to occasionally do things if you go on a vacation together or apart from each other, or you're on the road in your spot. Like, maybe there's special circumstances in which you do have a free hall pass or whatever, or maybe they're or whatever.
That's
those are all different.
I think that term is so silly, but I get what you mean.
But those are all different. It takes all kinds when it comes down to it. And so ideally, I'd prefer if people just kind of didn't restrict it and make it like there shouldn't be a stigma. It's just a normal thing. It's just the way that I operate. It's just the way that, and the same way that people that are super into monogamy, it's just the way they operate.
Yeah, there's some people that have been. It's monogamous all their life.
Honesty's kind of the thing that's kind of the breaker on that. Right?
I think the honesty is good. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm trying to push more about it. I'm trying to talk more about it on stage.
To bring more awareness to that?
Yeah, because it's an important thing, man. I'd say it's just another thing I get stupid questions about when it's all said and done. You just end up answering
probably like with me and the
narcolepsy.
Stuff. It's like you get a lot of stupid questions.
Yeah.
So what are some of the stupidest questions you get about polyamory?
People ask me if I'm just trying to be a player or trying to put notches on my bedpost or whatever. People immediately think it's polygamy.
Oh,
yeah,
so
a lot of people think
polygamy
it's
is where it's just the guy.
It's a guy with a bunch of wives.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't want any wives.
Let alone 3.
I've had a wife. I escaped.
You escaped?
Thank you, Harriet Tubman.
So were you... So were you polygamous when you were married? I'm confused.
No. We had a bit of an open relationship at the beginning, and then that kind of went away, and the relationship kind of died out, probably partially underlyingly because of that, really. And so, like I said, it's always been a thing. I've tried to do the monogamous thing every once in a while, but it just doesn't seem to take. So.
Well, it's cool that you're talking about it more. That's a thing to bring awareness to.
Yeah, I've been trying to talk about it. At some point, it ends up being talked about on most podcasts I get on, just because it's a thing that most people won't talk about.
Yeah.
Which is like...
I haven't had anybody talk about it yet.
Yeah.
And we talk about a lot of relationship and sex stuff just because, I guess, when lying in a bed, you think of that stuff.
Yeah. And it's, I get that idea, I guess, of somebody looking for the one, but it just seems like... I don't know. Go walk around Hollywood for a while and tell me if there's a one that you should have. It seems very odd. It seems like a hard thing to settle on. You know what I mean?
And even if you have a one, like even my parents and their relationship is so great, but my dad was married before my mom.
Right.
Yeah. So technically, it's still not a It's
not like they found the one person and they never chose a different person, right?
Yeah.
So, we get so worried about making a mistake in choosing a partner too that we worry. There's so many of these built-in, things that we've decided as Americans at this time and day and age of who we are, that we feel we need to have. There's so many people that feel like you're going to be married by this age and kid by this age, and I don't have a kid by this age, and I start freaking out. And
I used to worry about that.
I need to find my person. I read those on
Why can't you be your own person?
I need to find my person. Well, like, I'm just looking for people. I'm looking for good people.
Yeah.
I
like that. I mean, because I have friends that are like the super get me more than any guy's gotten me. You know what I mean? Like, I've got good friendships. And not people I'm attracted to in that way, but, like, good friendships of people that just get me in that way. And I'm like, oh, like, they're my people in that way. Like, they understand me. I can be as weird as I want. I can tell them whatever, and they'll never judge me on it. They'll be like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I think it should be okay it should be okay to know people that you get along with really well, you have a good attraction with, you have good chemistry, but also, like, that you probably shouldn't live together, or you probably shouldn't, like, be on a path towards marriage, but you love hanging out with them, right? You should still be able to, like, care for somebody or love somebody and have a good relationship without it having to mean that you have to then, like, well, now that we've had sex, we've got to figure out how at some point you can move all of your things into my things now. Like that, why is that the move that everybody's going to go to?
Well, maybe it's also a thing of, like one of the best, I wouldn't even call it a relationship, like, we dated, like, for a summer, right? Because he lived here this summer before he went to law school. And I think part of it was the fact that I knew he was leaving, and he knew he was leaving. But it was, like, this kind of intense, like, really great thing. And we kind of built and saw each other, over a couple months. But it was, like, we saw each other all the time. It was I would still consider it a relationship. And significant relationship, because I feel like we connected and we got along on so many levels. But I knew he was going away, and I was, like, so mad, because I was like, he got into 2 really good law schools, George Washington, and then he also got to Northwestern, but he was waiting to hear back about George Washington, and I was like, oh, why couldn't you have gone to Northwestern? Like, why not?
Yeah.
And that's okay, but I still think about that as being, like, even though it was super short, like, one of my best relationships I've ever had, because it was super awesome, because nothing really dramatic or bad happened.
Well, we
got
only have
each
6
other.
months. It's kind of
right.
When it's only 6 months long, you can easily just be like, "Oh, okay, cool."
But that's the thing, when you know it was going to end. And the thing is, we talked early on, and I was like, "Hey, I don't believe in long distance." And that's the thing. Part of the reason I don't believe in long distance is because I don't trust other people, or maybe it's I don't trust myself. Not that I have been, not that I've been, unfaithful, because I'm not that person, but I just, the distance thing is too far, and even if it's...
When you're worried about what somebody else is doing with their time, that becomes a difficult thing. But I've maintained long-distance relationships for years plus in situations that were open.
Well, I think if it's open, that can be okay.
Yeah, that's been it was the ease of the deal, is that, like, oh, we can also just go do whatever we want. And, like, I do like having my alone time too. So like, being able to know that I can, like, take off and be alone, and kind of, like, it's that's one of the things that people think too, is, like, I have a lot of guy friends that they're kind of shocked that I'm willing to kind of openly talk about polyamory, and they have this misconception that I'm just like sleeping with people every night. That it's just
they just think that it's
I'm just on the town. I've got a date every night. I'm just in a bed, and it's like, I sleep alone as much as anybody else, if not more. Like, and that's not a woe is me kind of a thing. It's just like, I have probably about as much sex as what everybody else is probably having. You know what I mean? It's not like.
But even if you have a main person.
Yeah, I mean, well, you have the type of sex you would have if you're in a relationship, but but there's lots of times, like, I could be in a city for a week and not have any. It's not like just because I'm in a town, I'm like, all right, well, we're gonna have some sex while we're here. It doesn't always work that way. Yeah. And my friends a lot of times think that, like, oh, you're gonna be in New York this week, you're gonna be in Vegas, you're probably just fucking all week and just. Another girl to the room. By
the way, are these married guys that are trying to live through you?
No. Well, some of them are. Some are married. But, like, no, it's just, there's this misconception that, like, because I am, because I'm polyamorous, or because I will have more than one intimate relationship at a time, that, like, that's all I'm doing. Like,
gotcha.
And it's just, no.
It's like, you have other things you're doing in your life. You're not just, your whole goal in life isn't to just hook up.
Again, related to sexual orientation, it's like, if I was gay and you're like, oh, so you're just fucking dudes all the time, nonstop? Is that every night just fucking dudes? And it's like, well, no, that's not how it works. Like, this is just how I feel about relationships. How I get to live it out is not, that doesn't happen every day.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good to know. Interesting.
Super in depth on polyamory.
No, super in depth. A crash course for people that don't know about that very much. Yeah. And I appreciate you getting so personal talking about that.
Yeah, it's come see me perform. You can come see me talk about it on stage too.
Yeah. As we're winding down towards the end of the podcast, I always ask people, because I know you say you don't actually dream that much, but I like to ask people what your dreams and hopes are for the future.
Got it. Wow, that's a lot to talk about. I joke a lot about Team Beige on stage. I'm mulatto, so I make a lot of jokes. I have a lot of jokes on my materials. It's about some racial stuff. And so I joke about the Team Beige thing. I call it the khaki spring. Kind of like the Arab Spring, but a little more peaceful. But no, I my dreams for the future are mostly about us caring about things other than race at some point. I had a conversation with somebody the other night where it was a person who's never seen me perform. It was a white dude, and he wanted to tell me about how I should be using all of my cards in my comedy. He was like, "You be playing all your cards, man. You should be like screw with the black people and then reeling them back in and then say something about the Jews." And I'm like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And I had explained to him, because he just kept bringing up this race stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't ever think about race until people like you bring it up to me. I go through my day just being a dude who has the background I have, just interacting with people until you say something. Yeah. And now we got to talk about it. Like, yeah, I have an opinion, but like, I was just living my life until you started wanting to bring up my race. And so my dreams would be to have less of that going on, so I can tell more jokes about farts and stuff like that instead of talking about race. You know what I mean? I have a lot more jokes about, banging my head on shit that I'd like to tell, and less jokes about. I'd like to get the race jokes out of the way and have them not be the same way that like Yakov Smirnoff didn't have anything to talk about once the Cold War ended. I'd like to see that happen with my racial material. Have it just be like, oh, it's not really a valid thing to even discuss anymore. So yeah, that'd be kind of cool if we could do that.
Awesome.
That'd be great.
That's a good dream.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What about you? What are you dreaming about?
Oh, I'm dreaming about making this pilot into a web series and maybe seeing where that goes. And I mean, I would love to, for me, I just want to continue to do stand up, and I'd like to have it, like to build up to get an hour. I've probably got like 30 that I'm happy with now, but I'd like to get to the point where I build like an hour. And I want to keep doing the podcast because it's fun and silly.
Yeah, it's a fun podcast.
And have like people, maybe that people, like I'd like to have like I would love, a big dream is I'd love to get like Mike Birbiglia on this podcast because he's perfect for it.
This would be a perfect
that would be like, because he's got weird sleep stuff and I could touch him. That's like someone like that would be really cool.
High profile people with sleep issues.
Yes, and they don't have to have sleep issues. Like, we don't spend that much time talking about the sleep stuff.
But you could if that's what you had on, though.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like Mike and I could talk for so long about weird sleep shit.
Yeah, well, if I ever go get a sleep study done on myself, then maybe I can come back in and share the results.
Oh, I would love to.
Know how
that'd be so
fucked
cool.
up my sleeping patterns are.
That'd be so cool.
That'd probably be a good idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.
And we always end by going to sleep. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to Sleeping with Sarah, where I slept with comedian Bobby Hill. You can catch Bobby's show, The Trusty Sidekick, which will be premiering on Bid Chat on September 12th at 6 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. West Coast Time. You can also follow Bobby on Twitter at mocha_Jesus. If you like the podcast, please rate and review on iTunes and subscribe. This podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Please go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. I'm releasing a new podcast each week. Be sure to tune in to find out who I have in bed with me next. Thanks to Josh Bryant for the music. You can also view the video on YouTube or follow me on Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Until next time, good night.
Sleeping with Sarah.